Hello and welcome to the Pole Position podcast powered by Sports News Blitz. I'm Henry. I'm joined by Alexandra and Nicole, and this is a new podcast on Sports News Blitz, all about Formula One. We're going to start off with the Monaco Grand Prix, but first we're going to have a little chat about the season so far. Alexandra, I'll start with you. Initial thoughts after 8 rounds of Formula One action?
I think it seems to be it's really getting ramped up. We're starting to see teams like McLaren really pull ahead in the constructors, and really seeing all these teams come with the new upgrades that make them more competitive and make them actually compete in the races and figure out all those teething issues. But it's 8 races in, and we've already had 2 driver changes. I don't know that that's ever really been a thing. Before we've got Yuki Tsunoda now in Red Bull, Liam Lawson's been demoted back down to the sister team, and I think it's Jack Doohan's been replaced by Luco Calapinto. So it's all go, it seems, even though it's only been 8 races.
Yeah, it's been chaotic for sure. Nicole, what about you? What stood out for you?
It feels like it's been a long start to the season because so much has happened in comparison to how last season started in 2023. So it's been exciting. I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan, so and a Ferrari fan, have been a Ferrari fan for years. So it's been insane to finally see them together. It's been a roller coaster. Um, I have no clue how the season's going to end, but it's an interesting one to watch unfold. The driver changes have been insane because again, Yuki coming into Red Bull not even halfway through the season, Colapinto being brought back, Jack Doohan being booted out. It's a lot. It's been, and then we actually might have a proper title fight, which is really good to see. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how the season goes, although just not from a Ferrari fan's perspective.
I think
Yeah,
that
well,
seems to be the theme with Ferrari for the last couple of years. They sort of have a few sporadic good races, but never a good season. And I think with Lewis Hamilton, I think everyone was really excited initially for Ferrari, but it sort of seems like they're still sorting out a lot of teething issues between him and between the team. I hope it gets better quicker because it doesn't
Yeah.
look good for him.
yeah, I was going to say just I know we were going to talk about Monaco a little bit later on, but um, Monaco really did highlight, that Hamilton really hasn't quite got used to all those quirks, I think is the right word with
Mm.
Ferrari. That relationship with his race engineer, Riccardo Adami, seemed again a little bit strange. He didn't seem to have all of the information that he needed. I mean, the very fact that he started P7 thanks to an impeding penalty, that was all about miscommunication from his team. That wasn't Lewis's fault. So yeah, he still hasn't bedded in. But I mean, it's not at the same time. It's not quite a surprise. I mean, such a huge change being at Mercedes, McLaren, having that relationship for so long. There are always going to be issues involved. And yeah, just on the driver changes as well. It's been a cruel start to the season for some. Um, and also, I think it's the whole Racing Bull Red Bull situation is fascinating to me. I think you could put I think you could put Verstappen in that Racing Bull, and some weekends he'll have a better weekend than he does even in his car, you know. So and but Hadjar also, I think he's really impressed. That's something that doesn't really get said enough because there's so much sort of else that we're looking at. So yeah, I think it's been a chaotic start to the season.
I think it's interesting that you say cruel because I think that sort of sums up the driver changes because at the end of the day, these new drivers that have been swapped, they're rookies, and they're not really being given a chance to sort of settle into their teams. It's like it's expected to take at least a third of the season, I would say, like for a driver to really settle into the car, settle into the team, and really understand like how those dynamic works. I mean, it's like we were saying with Lewis Hamilton. He's a 7-time world champion, and even he's still struggling to make it work with a brand new team. So why is there all these pressures on the rookies to get it done in like 3 races? I think it's honestly it's a bit unfair considering some of them are really quite young.
Yeah, I think a season should be enough. Maybe even a little bit more, but a season seems fair, especially when they're so young and drivers don't test as much as they used to before joining F1. So I feel like a season is fair. A few races is not fair. It doesn't matter unless it's crashing every single weekend and costing a ton, like a load of money. Then I don't think you should just put your drivers like that. It's not fair, and they're young, they're kids. They deserve a chance. They deserve a good environment to grow into the drivers they want to be. So yeah, it's a bit to the whole Alpine situation, and Red Bull's been like this for years. I'm also a Vettel fan, so I've had a relationship with Red Bull, and I've never been a fan of how they handle their drivers. So I feel it's not fair. It's unnecessary pressure, especially on rookies, because how do you expect someone to come into F1 and you give them 5 races to perform in F1? It's not right. I don't think it's good for the rookies or for the sport, anyways. So it
Yeah,
needs to
agreed.
be
I mean,
handled better.
I agree with you. I mean, I know not everyone's a Max Verstappen, but even he didn't take to everything. I mean, he took to everything so naturally, and it was obvious that he was going to be what he is now. But even he still had his problems. He still was he was ultra aggressive and not very mature. He was reckless. He crashed. He was crashy. Um, he took his time to become sort of a more, I was going to say measured. That's probably still not the right word that everyone thinks of with Max Verstappen, but he still is. He is a more he's a more mature, a more considered racing driver than he was, and that took a long time.
Yeah, it's all about being in an environment where you're trusted and allowed to grow, and you see how that worked out well for him. If you're not in that environment,
Yeah.
it's so hard for you to actually adjust and be a proper racing driver.
It's almost like the teams don't want to work on potential anymore. They want you to be delivering Max Verstappen level instant results, which I just think for a sport that's as demanding as it is and relies so much on great like interpersonal team dynamics, it's beggars belief, I think, watching them put this much pressure.
Yeah, and I mean it's nice when a team gets a driver and they're young and they deliver instantly, because like Lewis came in and it was podiums for his first few races. Antonelli's come in and he's really good and he's impressed. But it's also okay when your driver comes in and he's struggling. It's their first time driving as a Formula One driver in races around people who've been in the sport for years and know the teams and know the cars, know the tracks. You can't expect, it's not fair to expect them to deliver like instantly. I don't think it's fair at all.
For sure. And on that, do you want to move on to Monaco? We'll have a bit of a chat. I mean, I was going to say there's a lot of talking points, not a lot in terms of the actual race. The big talking point, obviously, is the mandatory 2 pit stop rule that was introduced, trying to make the Monaco, what is a street circuit, a tight street circuit with these big chunky modern F1 cars, more entertaining. Did it work?
I think it was like Toto Wolff, the Mercedes team principal, said he appreciates that they tried, but it did not work. I think Monaco has become one of those races that, yes, it is iconic, but for the modern technology that's used in these cars, the circuit is just not wide enough for any sort of actual racing. It is very much like how you qualify is how you finish up, and we saw that with the top 3. And I think the mandatory 2 pit stops, it didn't really create a lot of racing. It created more like strategy play and teamwork together, rather than what the sport seems to be more about is the actual race and the actual drivers competing against each other.
Yeah, I think for Monaco to become an interesting Grand Prix, forget qualifying is always going to be great here, but for it to be an interesting race, I think either the cars need to get smaller or you just need to pray for rain every Sunday. So
the cars are going to get smaller next year with the 2026 regulations, but even then they're still going to be massive.
Yeah.
to what they used to be. We're not in the 50s anymore. It's still going to be a problem. And yeah, I mean, I do appreciate that they tried something. But ultimately, I think it really risked becoming a parody of itself because yeah, you had Racing Bulls and Williams holding everybody up, waiting for their driver ahead to their teammate ahead to have their two pit stops. Then they switched back. It was all a bit of a mess. Then we were looking at what Mercedes were doing the whole time. Antonelli pitted twice between laps 69 and 71 and finished P18. It's just like, I mean, obviously, but it's just
almost feels pointless, I think, in a way,
Yeah.
especially when Mercedes had like such a bad qualifying, which we haven't seen in a very long time. But again, it's like I appreciate what they're trying to do, but this sort of strategy does not work for the sport. It's a fast-paced sport. It needs action. It needs some stuff to be happening on the track to keep fans engaged. And apparently there were fans in the grandstands who didn't even know what was happening, where Max Verstappen took the lead but hadn't taken his 2 pit stops. When he went in to take a pit stop, some fans were very confused, being like, he's just given up the lead for no reason. Why is he pitting? So there's also that communication issue, I think, with the FIA and the fans, which I think are what makes the sport as big as it is. You can't have this sport without fans.
Yeah, I mean the even the experts and people on Sky Sports, Martin Brundle, he was getting things wrong in terms of rules. I remember it was when Verstappen was ahead, and he was ahead by a really big margin in terms of the difference between whether he would pit or not pit. It would have been the same because he would have. Brundle said that he would have got that 30-second penalty if he chose not to pit the second time. That turned out to be false, but it's just the fact that that's information that he's sort of just checking, learning on the spot. It was all over the place. Yeah.
I think
and it was
to pray that if Monaco is going to keep staying on the grid, we need to keep hoping for just smaller and smaller cars. I don't think we'll ever get back to the previous eras. I wish, but I don't know. Maybe Monaco needs to be a rotational kind of thing on the calendar. The same we used to have the European Grand Prix, then this year we have Monaco, next year we have, since they don't want Barcelona to be the Spanish Grand Prix, we can have Barcelona one year, another year we do Germany. I miss the German Grand Prix. So yeah, I think Monaco would be better in terms of just how F1 has evolved. I think Monaco would be better as a racetrack we visit just once in a while. I know F1 would love to keep it. The money's good, the exposure is good, but we're not getting racing, and F1 is about racing. So we can't just be there for Saturdays. Sunday has to be good too. So
Yeah.
something needs to be done.
You've hit the nail on the head with the money issue. I think is something that we've seen quite a lot of in this sport. I mean, it is a lucrative sport, but for a race like Monaco, it's in Monaco. It's the highest GDP per capita of any country. So there is a lot of money in it, but I also think it's quite sad that we're just sort of falling into this monetary profit value, because I think if it was any other race, Monaco would have been scrapped long ago just because of how tedious the race almost feels and dull it is. I mean, when we're losing races like Imola, it sort of doesn't match up, and I'm very sad to see where the sport seems to be going, and I hope that in the next year or so things really start to change.
Yeah. And I mean, Spa has been another one that I don't think it's in a precarious position anymore, but it has been in the past. That's to me unthinkable that you would get rid of Spa. It's one of the favourites among fans and drivers. But yeah, with Monaco, I think it risks becoming just the opposite with drivers and fans alike. I mean, when you've got racing drivers and team principals effectively apologising post-race for how they have gone about a Grand Prix, you've got an issue. I'm obviously referencing Williams. Albon very explicitly said sorry to the Sky Sports audience, and And James Vowles even sent Toto Wolff a text afterwards saying, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, something needs to be done. We can't have. I understand the history of the circuit of the place. And every driver wants to win in Monaco. So taking that opportunity away as well it's sad, but it's a reality that F1 will have to face sooner rather than later. We
I just
can't
thought,
keep doing this.
amazing thought. One word, Lego.
I thought that was a brilliant idea. I think it's the best thing we've ever seen. And I was like, how is this the most exciting part of F1 is when they're now racing Lego versions of their own cars.
Bring it to Monaco, why not?
Monaco should just be about
Brilliant.
qualifying, and then Sunday just do whatever with your Lego cars. Just have fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Let's just be like, drive whatever car you want, set it up however you want, no rules. Let's just see who can do this.
Yeah, the race is basically qualifying on Saturday. We get the points handed out there. Done deal. Sunday is about fun.
Yeah.
That's also the thing that I'm conflicted about in terms of Monaco is that the Saturdays are so good. There's nothing like Monaco on a Saturday. I always just think about the 2023 qualifying when we thought Alonso had it and he was 2 seconds up on in that last sector, and Verstappen somehow gets it back in the slowest of all of the sectors. And even Saturday, we thought Leclerc, who has been nowhere in qualifying this season, we thought that he had pole position, and then Norris gets it last minute, and that's even a story in itself because Norris has needed something like that too.
I mean, he's really lost his confidence, and I think the fact that in qualifying he set a lap record shows you like the potential of this track. But I think his track time on Sunday was 4 seconds off his pace in qualifying because of all the hold-ups and the pit stops and everything. So you're really taking away from the potential of the track with a Grand Prix.
Yep, he even had Ollie Behrman going, I think, 3 seconds quicker at one point towards the start. I mean, and even then, I don't think he'd probably be able to pass him if they were racing. That's Monaco.
The reality of Monaco now.
Very much the reality of Monaco.
It's so sad. But as much as I enjoy the qualifying, I'd take it off the calendar and bring back one of the German tracks. Or Malaysia, even India. I feel like we have so many good tracks that can come in place, even if it's rotational. Because, Monaco's good for the money. F1 gets more than enough money, but yeah, it's good for the money. It's a good qualifying round and all. It's great, but we want racing. So if we can replace it with a track that has good quality racing, I think F1 wins. I know they don't want to win without the money, but we need racing. F1 is also a lot. The fans give so much, and they deserve to get like good quality like racing in return.
Yep. We'll try and talk about the racing. Hopefully, obviously the winner was Lando Norris. I think that's a good place to start. It's only his second win this season. Now I think equal with Piastri in terms of career wins, and only just 3 points behind as well. I think Monaco was a huge victory in Norris's, not only his season, but I think in his career as well. I think that's massive.
Yeah, because winning Monaco is a huge deal. It's a huge deal to win Monaco. So yeah.
And I think for Lando Norris, this win meant more to him than I think any other win would have at any other point in any other season, simply because not just it's Monaco, but the Lando Norris that we've seen this season so far seems to almost have been a shell of himself. He's not as confident as we've seen him before. He's not as self-assured. And I wonder if it's because of any sort of the actual competitiveness that Piastri is managing to take to him, and that it is not a case of a 1-2 driver. They're very much on equal levels. And whoever gets ahead in qualifying, that's who the team have to prioritise.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's really helped Piastri this season is his manager is Mark Webber. Mark Webber knows what it's like to be a number two driver, and I don't think he'd coach Piastri to accept being a number two driver. So Piastri's mentality he's always had a good mentality. We've seen that since he got into the sport, but I think his confidence has also gotten so much better in the team and the car, and you've seen that this season. And Lando has had to deal with that, and I think kind of it was unexpected for him, and he probably didn't handle it too well. But I think Monaco is going to be a huge boost for his confidence moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see how he does in Spain because coming off of a Monaco win should really
Yeah.
help.
I think even the reaction that we saw to him, saw of him at the end of the race, just showed us how much it meant to him, like his interaction with his mum and his dad, and it almost looked like a weight was off his shoulders that he was
Yeah.
like, you know what, I am as good as I'm meant to be. I am meant to be in this team. Because I do think we've seen those elements of self-doubt sort of creep into his mindset since the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of whenever we talk about Norris and his weaknesses, it is pressure. It's how pressure gets to him, and it's race starts as well. I mean, he didn't have a perfect race start. He locked up really heavily into turn one, but he kept the lead, and he kept the net lead throughout. I know he was probably helped out in that regard, I suppose, in terms of Verstappen backing him up. In terms of I think it's easy to follow around Monaco, but even still, you have to we all know Monaco is one of the most as I said, precise and exact tracks on the calendar. The fact that he didn't make any mistake, he didn't even have a wobble. Piastri did. Piastri hit the barrier once or twice. I think that's huge for his confidence for sure.
Oh, massively. And talking about the preciseness of driving that's needed, we saw this in qualifying, that how much a little mistake can just completely take you out of the running, with Kimi Antonelli clipping that coming out of the tunnel and just going straight into the barrier. I think for someone so young, that's really going to have shaken his confidence, but it just shows you how on the ball you have to be on a track like Monaco.
Yeah, same thing happened with Bortoleto during the race. He went into that hairpin wall. That was a really nice overtake, and then into the barriers. So it's one of those tracks where you really have to be on your toes the entire time. There's no time for mistakes. You'll be completely thrown off.
I also want to talk about Ferrari a little bit too, because I think it was overall a good weekend in terms of where they've been. I mean, it was P2 for Leclerc and P5 for Hamilton in the end. But like last week, I think they've had both sides of the garage have been a little bit different in terms of the reaction. Leclerc was disappointed, obviously, with not being able to repeat last year's amazing victory, but I think I sense a bit more positivity this week. Last week it was the opposite. I think Hamilton, I think he described it as a miserable Grand Prix, and he was lonely in fifth.
Yeah.
I mean, you really do feel sorry for Hamilton at Ferrari, I think, at this point in time. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but it does seem like there's much more going on behind the scenes of this team, much more than normal teething issues. And I think for Hamilton, going from being so integral to Mercedes and being so involved in how their team operates, to go into Ferrari, where he is the newbie. It's not a British team, it's an Italian team. They have their own way of doing things. And with a team that has such prestige like Ferrari, it's great to go to it. But is it good for someone that's so well established as Hamilton and has such a precise way of doing things?
I think it's been difficult to watch, especially because his last few seasons at Mercedes were they're not good. So Ferrari was supposed to be a fresher breath air, but Ferrari is Ferrari. But I think one thing that's so crucial that Ferrari really need to handle is the communication, because if there's one thing that's so important for any driver is for their race engineer and them to like gel so well together. He's come from working with Bono, who
Mhm.
yeah, he worked with him for years, so obviously the chemistry is going to be there. But like once they clicked, and it worked so well. And yeah, there's no reason for Lewis to be asking for information and not getting the info that he needs. He's alone in that car. There's only so much he can see. If his race engineer is not giving him the info that he needs, his race is it's messed up. So
We saw
yeah,
it. We saw those two prime examples in qualifying with the mistake about where Verstappen was, and then at the end of the race where Lewis was saying thank you to the team and just radio silence to the man and asking if he's like a 7-time world champion should not be asking his race engineer if he's done anything wrong. Like that just shouldn't happen in this sport. Like for someone like Lewis Hamilton to see those moments of doubt creep in and wonder, have I messed up here? I think speaks a lot for the dynamic that's going on between him and his engineer, and it's quite hard to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I
it
also
needs
want
to
to know
be fixed.
where his race engineer
I think over
was. That's still we haven't got to the bottom of that. I imagine he was probably off to the pit wall or something to celebrate with the team. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, it was a weird one. I hadn't really seen anything quite like that before in terms of 7-time world champion having to ask, "Are you upset?" and just
I mean,
nothing back.
your engineer is your point of contact with the team
Yeah,
on the pit wall,
you can't
regardless of whether your other driver has done well. Your engineer should be with you until the end of the race. Or if
until
he's
you
signing off being like, that's me, I'm gone, but you've done well, mate. They need to be that point of reassurance for the driver.
I think it's really a big culture shock for Lewis because him and Bono had such a good friendship. We're not just colleagues who work well together. We have a genuine relationship. So to come here and struggle the entire season, I mean, granted, even Charles's race engineer, I think Ferrari need to just get new race engineers because the communication is so important in this sport. So yeah, they need to fix that like first and foremost because yeah, you can have a great car, but if your race engineer is doing nothing to help you get the most out of it, then yeah, what can you do?
words of wisdom, may I say?
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, so I still think Ferrari overall they did have a good weekend in terms of where they've been. Qualifying in particular, I think to get P2 and P4 on the road for Hamilton was great. I mean, last week it was P11 and
positive.
P12, and qualifying has been the issue with Ferrari. They've been good in terms of race pace, um, but yeah, still just Ferrari being Ferrari. There's obviously some work to do.
It's like you say, it's that age-old meme of Ferrari strategy and how it changes a driver at the end of the season.
Yeah.
It's so insane. It's every single season. They're just a laughing stock. It's so sad. But can we move on from that and talk about Fernando Alonso?
Yes.
That's where I was gonna. The unluckiest driver in the world is what he said last week.
He
I
hasn't
mean,
scored any points this season.
I mean, this week just really, I think, I solidified that little quote from him. He really, like, I think we were all rooting for him this weekend because he's such an iconic driver for the sport, and to see him like actually excel and actually do well, and then have to finish his race because of a mechanical issue. I just think it is really sad to watch it happen.
It's insane. It's been wow. He hasn't. I don't even remember the last time he won a race. Like I don't even have it in my head. It's been forever.
I know
And then
that's going that far back.
Yeah.
you really have to go back to a whole other era of Formula One. And then he hasn't scored a single point this season. And Lance Stroll has scored points. And a lot of people
Sounds
have.
awful, but I think that's the embarrassing point for him.
The fact that Stroll has scored points as well. And I'm not Stroll's biggest fan, but I'm also not a hater of Stroll. So, but it's still an insane thing to think about how this two-time world champion, who once upon a time was one of the biggest dogs in F1, hasn't scored a point, and we've had 8 races, and his teammate has scored. It's it's interesting. It's scary.
Yeah, I mean, I find his comments after actually quite interesting. I know I picked up on the unluckiest driver in the world quote from last week, but he did say that this week there wasn't luck didn't have too much to do with it. He was a little bit um upset, I think, with the preparation into the weekend. He spoke about the engine not being too well prepared. I also read that Aston Martin were in contact with Mercedes powertrain powertrain performance, and they got the all clear to go ahead with push on, even though he was experiencing some issues with his. I think it was his ERS. It was sort of similar to Ricardo in 2017, whenever he lost so much power. But yeah, I'll still go along with him in that I think he's been really unlucky. And I think despite no points again this weekend, I think the last two weekends have been really encouraging because obviously Aston Martin have brought upgrades to Europe, and I think they've worked. I think that's clear.
And I think with
Well,
Aston Martin,
yeah.
it's so strange how they were supposed to be somewhere right now. They promised Vettel that he was going to be fighting for wins eventually or podiums, and Vettel retired. Fernando came in also believing, yeah, this team, they can definitely put me up. And then they started, was it 2023,
Yeah.
fighting with Red Bull. They were the closest team, and then they just fell off, and they've been struggling to get back up there. And yeah, is Adrian Newey going to be the one who's going to just magically bring them back up? Can he? That's a lot of pressure to put on one man.
I mean, Adrian Newey is a legend for a reason, but I think he also did speak about. He spoke recently. He said, "No, there's stuff here that does need to improve. It's not going to be. He can't do it all
Yeah,
himself.
it's not a miracle worker.
No, but it will be. It'll be interesting. I mean, I'm intrigued by the fact that they have brought quite major upgrades during this season. Whenever you've got the likes of Williams, who are understood to be holding off, a lot for next season. That'll be really interesting. I want to get on to Williams actually. I think that was ultimately a good race from them. I think P9, P10 is probably a little bit further back than what they have been in the last little while in terms of pure pace. But I think whenever they saw the Racing Bulls doing what they were getting up to in terms of strategy, I think Sainz talked about there being a bit of a panic mode. I think they recovered well, even if they're not entirely happy with themselves.
I think their strategy for the new two-stop mandatory strategy really, I think it really worked out. And while like James Val has said that this isn't how he likes to go racing, I think there was like an element of appreciation for a team that's really thinking about the bigger picture. They're not just thinking about a driver as individuals. They're thinking about how these two drivers can help out the team together and how they can help out each other, which I think I was quite appreciative of seeing in the sport. It wasn't necessarily prioritizing one driver over another. It was keeping them on a very level pegging.
And I think it's good that I hope it pays off this whole kind of sitting back in 2025. I hope it works out well for them in the next era because if they don't kick off that era in a sort of positive manner and they don't like go into it even the second year of the new regulations, if they're not doing too well, they're gonna regret not trying to get the most out of this year. So yeah, whatever they're doing for 2026 needs to be good.
Yep.
I'll have to
Although
admit, but it has to be good.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I will fully admit that I am a massive James Vowles believer.
So
I think he's great. Just, I mean, he's just a dude. But he knows what he's doing. I mean, I'm so impressed with all of his debriefs after the races. He he really cares about his drivers as well, very clearly. But also just in terms of like being able to acquire Carlos Sainz is a testament to the seriousness and the how he's revered, I think, at the moment. I think I've got a lot of faith. I think he'll bring Williams back, hopefully, to close to where they belong.
I think it's nice to see a team principal that's so switched on in terms of the sport itself. I think some of the other team principals can get so caught up in the off-track politics and the off-track dynamics, and I think gonna briefly mention the elephant in the room, the whole Christian Horner Red Bull scandal. I think just detracts from what the actual essence of the sport is when you have a man like him accused of what he's been accused of. It makes the sport look like a farce. It doesn't make it look like a serious sport at all. So seeing a team principal like James Val really focus on the drivers and the car and the strategy and thinking of the long term as well, I think it's really good to see.
Yeah, and he did well at Mercedes. He built his reputation really well there, and it landed him his role at Williams, and he's done a great job so far. So I think they can do it. Well, I hope they do, but yeah, time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah, I think just lastly for me, I want to go on to Mercedes. That was weird. That whole thing was just bizarre.
The weirdest strategy I've ever seen from any sort of team, and that's saying a lot considering the strategy we've seen Ferrari play out over the last couple of years. I don't know what any of them were thinking. I don't know what George Russell was thinking.
And the fact that you come off a very bad Saturday, and then at least try and make it better on Sunday. I know it's Monaco, but just try and make it better on Sunday.
Well, that's the thing, is that they did try, but it's just
a really bad attempt.
What were you doing? I mean, qualifying P14 and P15, you're gonna have your backs up against it already, but
it's not impossible. 14th and 15th is not one of the impossible places to get from for a team.
You're a team with a really big reputation. Even though you've struggled so much over the years, you've started the season well, and you're a team that has so much potential. So you can try and salvage something out of that.
I think the thing is that, I mean, to an extent, I understand what they tried to do. I mean, they went long and they were hoping for a red flag or safety car or something, and some kind of interruption. But it just went on and on and on, and it was clear that as traffic was starting to form, that nothing was happening. There wasn't enough racing for there to be any kind of incident. It was it was bizarre, and obviously, I don't know if it's gone under the radar or not, but I really didn't like the whole Russell corner cutting stuff. Like, I get that, yes, you've got a Williams backing you up for 78 laps, but you can't be cutting corners. It's just it's not right.
I feel like the mistake itself, whether it was a mistake, is also, I think,
that's up for debate. Yeah.
I think the mistake is sort of a rookie mistake, but I think what struck me the most was Russell's attitude after the fact that he's done this maneuver. He was so blatant in it, like, yeah, I'm gonna take the penalty. What are you gonna do about it? And I just think that's quite shocking to see from a driver that, like Russell, that we've seen as being a lot more smart and a lot more intelligent. In his words that he says over the radio, that felt like almost, I didn't feel like the Russell that we knew. He's not someone known for his aggression. He's not someone known for his violent outbursts or anything like that. So I think it was quite a changed man this race.
It was a bit Verstappen-like, wasn't it?
It got to
ironic.
Yeah.
Very Verstappen-like, and I think it works for Verstappen because it's Verstappen. He can hold his own and he can make the moves stick. He's out there, but I don't know that Russell has that same tenacity to get away with doing those sort of maneuvers and making those sort of comments during the race.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, even after the race, he still sort of portrayed quite a lax kind of who cares, that kind of thing. And I understand your frustration with Monaco, because we're all frustrated, but I don't know. I think it's still anything could have happened in terms of that, in terms of an incident. There's a reason you don't cut corners. Um, I just thought it was all a bit. It wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
100%
Hope that
unnecessary,
he
I think
comes
sums it
to-
up.
Let's hope that he goes to Barcelona with a more leveled mindset. And
Yes,
yeah,
and I'm looking forward to Barcelona. Obviously the big thing there is that they're clamping down on the flexi wings,
yeah,
um, which is a difficult sort of thing to explain, but it's essentially how much your rear and front wings are moving when there's load on the car. Um,
Can you sort of
I'm a
explain, like,
no
for fans that don't really know, sorry, that like why that's a controversial thing, having the wings moving up and down like that, and why they're trying to get rid of it?
well, last year, whenever we were seeing all of the replays, it was quite clear for some teams whenever there was straights where there wasn't. I don't think there was DRS involved. No, there was DRS involved. Sorry. The flap that goes down was very flexible, and it was almost adding another sort of mini DRS
Mini
uh,
DRS, yeah.
wing to everything. And McLaren are the big ones in terms of, Red Bull. They think that there's a bit of tomfoolery going on. And you are allowed, I can't remember the exact measurements now, but you are allowed a certain amount of flexibility there. That's now being cut down in terms of how much your wings can move when you're at high speed. And yeah, that'll Red Bull believe that'll play into their hands, and McLaren will be weaker for it. But let's see. That has been the whole thing since January, since it's been announced. Let's see. We don't really know how much it'll impact, because also McLaren have got other advantages in terms of how they've handled their brakes and their tire management. That's been
I don't
miles
think it's
ahead so far.
much.
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna have the effect that Red Bull were hoping it would have. But let's just wait and see. We're only a few days away from the race, so
Yep, it'll be good.
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah, it's our final race of the triple header. So what are everyone's predictions going into it?
I still think McLaren will take a win, and I think it will be Piastri. Although Lando will probably have a good Saturday because of the confidence from Monaco. So I think a McLaren 1-2 with Piastri. So maybe a little team drama, and then well, the third option, the third podium spot for me is in a prediction. Is just I'm hoping there's going to be a Ferrari there.
Yeah, I can't really look past McLaren. I mean, I know in our little overview at the start, we were talking about McLaren being ahead. I still don't think they are. I don't think they're miles ahead. I think there's still plenty of
Potential.
opportunity, yeah, for things to happen. But at the moment, yeah, I'd be surprised if it isn't Norris or Piastri. I'll go with Piastri just because he has been on top.
He's been the most consistent man.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think Red Bull have definitely improved in terms of they've got a better handle in their car now. They've brought a few upgrades. I think also, I mean, I imagine it'll be quite hot in Barcelona, but maybe not so much as other places that we've been. That helps them out in terms of their tires. So yeah, I think he'll be up there again, but I think overall race pace, McLaren have it.
And then there's also
yeah.
Mercedes. Oh yeah, Alexander. Then I'll talk
I'm
about
gonna throw Verstappen into the mix. I don't think he can be ever discounted in any sort of season. We've seen his dominance, and I think he's really gonna push McLaren to their absolute limits till the end of the season. I mean, he's the other one in the running for this championship race. So I wouldn't be surprised if he took the top podium either, because it's Max Verstappen. He's such a dominant racer, and he's one of those that's really good at managing their tires. So with a racetrack like Barcelona that gets so hot, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on pole.
Yeah, how do you guys think Mercedes are going to do? Because we know how temperature plays into their hands or out of their hands. How do you guys think they're going to
I think we're going to see a good, strong finish for Antonelli. I think he is becoming one of those drivers that does only sort of come around once in a generation, because he's got such a good head on his shoulders for such a young driver. He's on it. He thinks about the long game. He also thinks about what the short-term maneuvers are that he can work out. So I think seeing him in the top 10 wouldn't be a surprise for me, but I don't know if that's wishful thinking.
I think they'll have a good race.
It's a tricky one with Mercedes at the moment, because I feel the last 2 races they've not been happy at all. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Russell in the top 5 again and just have us barely notice, because that's been a trend. That would be, I think, quite typical for them to come back in that way. But yeah, I mean, Barcelona, in terms of the weather, I'm not sure what it will be like, but that'll be key for them, because that's been their weakness.
Yeah, the weather's just the past few seasons. The weather has been their biggest enemy. When it's not the car, it's the weather. So it'll be very interesting to see how they handle this weekend, especially coming off of they need to bounce back after Monaco. So yeah, let's see.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this result makes or breaks the team, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and Russell needs to come with a cool head.
100%. He needs
the team and himself. He needs to come to Barcelona having calmed down and thought about his actions. Yeah, and just ready to go again this weekend.
Yeah. Well, that's it for me. Anything else do you guys want to add?
No, I think we've covered everything from the race, even if there wasn't a lot to talk about the race, and given our listeners a little quick overview of how the season's gone down so far.
Yeah, I also have nothing to add. I'm just ready for the triple header to end.
Yep.
I'm gonna miss it. I like having a race to watch every weekend.
I feel like I need a little breather.
It's all a bit chaotic, isn't it?
I know.
But yeah, so well that'll do then. I think that's a good first episode. Thanks for joining me on the Pole Position podcast, and yeah, thank you.
We'll see you again.
See you later.